Today's advent calendar is the WZ121FT. It is priced at about 8,000 gold, 7,990. It's a decent tank. It's actually probably one of the best like tier 8 premium TDs that you can buy, but it's got a very, very limited gun arc. It doesn't really get that good view range, so you're going to need to have coated optics as well. But it does get really, really nice DPM. And the DPM on this thing, combined with really, really nice armor, as you can see on the side here, it's all nicely sloped, like the SU-122-44 and those type of style tanks. It's a nice tank to kind of hold a flank on. It isn't super accurate, like a Scorpion G or something like that, and the gun will troll you a lot, even when you don't really expect it to. It will just go nowhere close to where you aimed it. Now, for the field mods on this tank, you want to, of course, go for the left-hand side, as you do with every single tank destroyer in the game, because 30% more durability to your suspension, and also you get terrain resistances of 15%. Yeah, it's really good. Then you want to go down and make sure you limit the amount of dispersion, because especially on this tank, it is super important. The aim time isn't too bad, especially once we go into the equipment more. You need IRM on this tank, so this is going to be not too much to kind of deal with. And then, of course, finally, you go for the view range, because shooting after firing is on 8% even with this. Goes up to about 8.5 if you're stationary. It's not really too much of a difference, and the gain in view range is really, really good for this tank. Specialization, you can go for survivability, or you can go for scouting. I would probably recommend going for scouting, because then you can go and put optics on this thing, and you will get 465 meters view range. In the firepower slot, I would actually recommend you go and put IRM in it, because although, yes, the DPM is really, really good, and you should boost it up as much as you can, IRM is going to help you out a load on this, because it will make sure that the dispersion doesn't go too big when you're kind of turning the tank and the turret and stuff like that. Well, I say the turret, the gun arc. I just feel like that extra 2.5% is a lot more than the extra kind of 1.5% that you get from the gun rammer. And this is all without using food. If we were to use food on this tank, you will see that, yes, the dispersion goes all the way down to 0.32. This is exactly the same setup as this one. It's just that it has food on it. You get 248 standard pen. You get 310, I believe, millimeters of premium pen. Yep. And the nice thing about this tank, or this gun, is that it is 1,000 meters a second for every single shell. So it's AP, 1,000 meters a second. Heat, 1,000 meters a second. HE, 1,000 meters a second. It's probably some of the fastest HE in the game. Obviously, if you do use food, you are going to get more DPM. That's just how it is, because everything is just increased. And you get some really, really healthy view range all the way up to 487. If I was going to use food on this tank, I would probably stick vents instead of the optics, because then you get 449 meters view range, but you get more DPM, less dispersion, and it's just an all-round better deal. You keep the IRM, because I think IRM and rammer, obviously, are the most important things on this tank, but you can kind of forgo the optics for maybe vents, or even you could put an improved aiming unit on this tank, although you're going to have to think about which one do you really want, because, yeah, like, then it becomes a little bit challenging. I mean, you could also just go with bounty. That works as well. If you did want to forego the IRM, then you could do, but I wouldn't really recommend it. However, if you did, then you go all the way down to 0.29 accuracy, and this becomes a very, very nice gun to use. Although, yes, you're getting the aim time down, you still don't have that IRM benefit of the dispersion when you're moving the tank and stuff like that. So it's going to bloom out quite a bit. So yeah, the main one that I'd recommend everyone to use is obviously IRM, optics, and then rammer. If you have bounty, then that's great, but you don't necessarily need bounty on this tank, because it does get really, really nice DPM just from the get-go. So the WZ, would I recommend this tank? Yeah, sure, why not? It's not that bad, actually. I kind of like it. It's different. It's a different playstyle from the Scorpion G and the SU-130PM, or even kind of anything else for that matter. Like, even if it's a T103, this tank kind of sits in its own kind of playstyle. You can go hold down in this thing and angle up a little bit. You don't get a lot of gun depression. You only get -6. But if you used all that -6, you would probably be about, what, like this? or so. That is a very hard shot to pen if you're on a ridgeline. So if you can, go and get on a ridgeline and use your -6 degrees of gun depression. I know it's not a lot, but if you can, then you can pretty much just sit there impenetrable to most tanks. As long as it's, you know, not going to be a Jagdpanzer 100 firing heat at you. Now the tank itself goes for, obviously I said 8,000 gold, which works out around about 24, 25 pounds. I think that's an okay deal and an okay price for this tank, because it is one of the best tank destroyers that you can buy. Is it worth it as your first tank destroyer or your first premium tank? I don't know. I mean, you will get... I say it's a pretty forgiving tank only because of the fact that it does have a faster reload and it does have good DPM and it has very, very nice standard pen. However, it does take a while to get used to knowing how to play the tank. So for beginners and newer people to the game, then it's probably not the best tank for you. But if you did want one, then there's no one stopping you. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy, and I'll see you all in the next one.